Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, or very cheeky, and let's crack on with today's first story. Now, today's first story comes from Lost Contact. It does come with an update and it's titled, My 22 Male Sister 25 female, whom I have completely cut contact with and not spoken to in 3 years, just messaged me and wants to see me again. I don't know what to do or how to respond. My 22 male, sister 25 female, whom I have completely cut contact with and not spoken to in 3 years, just messaged me and wants to see me again. I don't know what to do or how to respond. My sister is 25 years old. I'm a 22-year-old male. 3 years ago, we completely cut contact and never spoke with each other again. We had a very vicious falling out and went completely separate ways. I had always thought I'd probably never see or speak to her again. We both had pretty shitty childhoods. Our parents were rotten to us both. It was never good. I always got the short end of the deal. Beatings, violence, what have you. When she was old enough to move out, she did, and she left me with them. Things got way worse for me, but eventually, when I turned 18 and went to college, after constant pressure from her, I did move out. We lived together for a year, and this was when the problem started. It was all because we were struggling for cash, and the monetary problems caused constant worsening resentment. Basically, the agreement was that we'd both pay 50-50. But with me focusing so much on my education and barely having enough time for a job outside that, I found coming up with my share of the money harder than it was for her. She ended up taking on more of the pay and responsibility, and I tried hard to keep up. It led us to having a lot of arguments. I started doing night jobs, which meant I slept a lot during the day. She started accusing me of being lazy. She sometimes even accused me of hiding money or lying about how much I made and trying to hide it from her, which was very hurtful for me to hear. The last straw came when one of her friends lost some money around us and my sister accused me of stealing it. Things became very violent. I lost all hope and faith in her because I couldn't believe she had leveled such an accusation against me. It ended very badly and I moved out. I lived with a friend as roommates since then. I was about 19 then. I've changed roommates a couple of times, but I have a circle of close friends. I hadn't talked with my sister at all since that day, not even a little bit. That was 3 years ago. I sometimes get messages from my parents and talk to them very briefly, but don't talk much to them either. I've lived my own life since then and have pretty much avoided my entire family. It's been that way for 3 years, and I've slowly overcome many challenges and put my life together through hard work. And today, I got a message from my sister out of the blue. It was sent to me on Facebook. My profile isn't that hard to find. I'd never blocked her on Facebook, but I had just completely ignored her account and never messaged her, aside from occasionally looking at her profile. I won't type out the full message she sent because it is really long and there were some really sensitive and emotional bits in it which I wouldn't feel comfortable making public. But essentially, some of the things she said were, I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I really miss you and I really love you. I'm very sorry about the way everything happened. You didn't deserve it. I should have believed you. I hope you can forgive me and give me another chance. It was really long and I could feel she had put a lot of emotion and sincerity into it, and it came off as somewhat apologetic, but wanting to put the past behind. She said she wanted to meet up with me again and see how I've been doing. I haven't replied yet. The whole thing caught me completely by surprise. I'd tried to keep my family out of my mind for 3 years while building up what I have so far of my life, and this was completely unexpected. I had to fight back more than a few tears, but now I'm again in a calm composition. But I don't know what to do. While I have tried to move on, it doesn't mean I've forgotten or forgiven what happened. The way she accused me of stealing and how vicious everything was. There had been a lot of hatred then, but now after 3 years she contacts me. After 3 years, she wants to build a new start and pretend like nothing happened and put it all in the past. What on earth could motivate her to do this? I have my life, she has hers. What on earth could bring her to try and drag this all back into our lives after 3 years? I don't know what to do. I haven't responded yet. I could just ignore the message entirely. If I respond, I suppose she'll want to meet up and build a new relationship and everything. Honestly, I don't need her in my life and I'm doing okay on my own. I have no idea what would motivate her to do this and I have no idea how to respond. Help, please. What should I do? And as I said, we do have an update to this post, and in the comments of this one, there was a lot of people talking from their own account, maybe even being in a similar situation. So we're going to start with Camille Oatmeal, who says, okay, so I've been the older sister in a very similar situation with your parents. The first thing I would like to say is that she did not abandon you or leave you with them. She left for her own well-being when she could. She couldn't stay there anymore and she wanted better for you too. That is why she urged you to move out. She loves you. The other things she did were 3 years ago. She probably isn't the same person she was 3 years ago, and neither are you. She may truly miss you and want to make amends. You can meet with her in a public place and tread carefully. She may apologize for her past behavior. She may not have any ulterior motives. But what will it hurt to meet with her? If your past is as shitty as you say, then you only have each other. Maybe she woke up and realized it. Erin Between the Ears says it's been 3 years and you clearly still resent the hell out of her for what happened. You were both in a really tough, high-tension situation of which she was picking up most of the slack. You did the right thing by focusing on your education, but that doesn't negate that you didn't pull the financial weight that you agreed upon when you moved in together. She fussed about making ends meet, but she did it. I know she hurt you deeply with the accusations that you weren't being honest about the money you had or that you stole money from a friend. She should not have handled things the way she did. You're at an age now that she was then. Do you ever mishandle things? Don't you want to be forgiven, especially after 3 years? If it were me, I'd write her back just to say, I haven't moved on from what happened between us 3 years ago. However, I realize that's my problem and something I need to work on letting go. Other than the issues we had living together, you weren't a half bad sister. I give you the option of working with me to move past it now that I see it, or giving me time to work through it on my own, and I'll contact you when I'm ready. And Relish 5K says, from how you describe it, it seems like both you and your sister were in a difficult headspace while you were living together, due to your rough upbringing, which I'm sure your presence reminded her of, and vice versa. And the tight money situation. It sounds like a very stressful time for both of you. Now she regrets how she handles it and wants to make amends, and it seems very genuine. You are under no obligation to let your sister be a part of your life, but I do think you should forgive her for you. Trying to understand her and forgive her actions will feel like a weight has been lifted from you. It may take time, but it will help you in the long run. And it's also what you need to do if you are interested in having a relationship with her. As for dealing with your sister, I think you should thank her for a message. If you're open to one in the future, let her know. If not, just cordially wish her well. And for me, when you were saying at the end of this, what on earth could motivate her to do this, to get in contact, it just felt to me what I was feeling in it. I think from what I read that she loved you and there is regret from what happened and possibly, some guilt as well, because she did accuse you of stealing, which I don't agree with at all. And I think in the end, this is a decision that you will have to make for yourself, no matter how much information you get here. I would never say oh yeah, you have to go meet your sister. That's what you need to do, because you need to decide that for yourself. To me, from what I read and the way that she wanted you at that house as well, that she does love you. So possibly meeting up in a public space like other people have said and having a conversation may be helpful to you. If you take it slow, you don't have to rush into things and move in together or do anything like that. Could just be meeting up for a coffee and chatting if you're comfortable with that. Is it something further down the road that you might turn around and go, oh bloody hell, maybe I should have spoken to her at that moment? Where would we be now kind of thing? But I don't know, it's all over the place for me in this one, I got to be honest. As always, it's very easy for me to say, but I think if I was in this position from what I've read in this story, I would be interested to know what she had to say meeting up. But let's move on to the update to find out what happened next. So, well, I was going to leave this for a few days before writing it, but I have time now, so I might as well. Thanks to everyone that gave supportive advice and encouragement. Part of me can't believe this is happening. It all feels so surreal, like a dream, but I'm glad it happened. After I got the message from my sister, I wanted to message her back. I'm not good with putting my feelings into words, and I typed out a long response. I tried to put all my thoughts and feelings into it, but I read it and it was so clustered and nonsensical, and parts of it were just embarrassing to read. I deleted it all and wrote another message. I wanted to accurately convey my feelings, but without coming off as accusatory or rude or anything. Basically, I had spent the last 3 years rebuilding my life. I'd put a wall around myself, separating myself from my family and everything that happened. I think I was scared to cross that wall again. I deleted the message again and I spent hours trying to reply. But I think I just put too much thought into it and I ended up not even replying. I left it as it is. I ignored the whole thing. I pretended it didn't happen. Part of me hoped she wouldn't send another message and that would be it. However, at night I got another message from her. She must have known that I've seen her message and I didn't reply. Her message was short. It just said, "I understand if you don't want to contact me or ever have anything to do with me again, but if you do, just know you have a sister out there and she loves you." I felt so guilty reading this. I cried almost instantly. I wish I hadn't ignored her first message. I wish I'd just sent a reply. I must have been crying loudly because my friend, the guy I live with, came in and started asking what's wrong. I said nothing at first, but he was really helpful and I opened up to him about what happened and how I'd been messaged by my sister. He sort of knows about my background with my family, so he was really supportive. He gave me encouragement and told me I should be receptive to her and contact her. I told him I wanted to, but I didn't know what to say or how to say it. He said it doesn't matter and just to write whatever I feel like. It doesn't have to be perfect. I sent her a message back. All I said was, "I miss you too." She replied and we started talking from there. I was very apprehensive and made a specific effort to not mention what happened 3 years ago. I agreed to meet up with her. She has her own entire house now that she rents. She seems to be doing very well on her own. She said she'd understand if I wasn't ready to see her yet so suddenly after so long, but I told her that I wanted to. I explained to my friend that I was going to go and visit my sister for the first time in 3 years. I was very emotional and somewhat unstable, but he was very understanding. He told me to take as much time as I need, and he'd give me a call later to make sure everything was okay. I thanked him for his immense help and support. Meeting my sister for the first time after all these years, I can't even describe it, what I felt when she opened the door. I cried. She cried. She hugged me forever. I thought I would feel uncomfortable. I thought I would feel scared or nervous. I thought I would feel angry or fearful, but there was none of that. I almost felt like I was returning to a home I'd abandoned. We talked about everything, even about what happened 3 years ago. We still didn't talk too much about that and didn't point any fingers. She seems to be doing very great with her life, able to afford renting an entire house on her own. At the age of 25, that's incredible. Apparently she still maintains contact with our parents, much more frequently and regularly than I do. She asked me how I was doing and said I seemed to be doing well. She offered me any money or financial assistance I needed. I told her no thanks, but she kept insisting. She told me that I'm her little brother, and as a little brother she feels she has a duty to look out for me, and she feels she hasn't done that so well. I think she feels guilty over what happened and it's her way of making repairs. I called my friend and told him things were well. I ended up spending the night there at her house. I'm here right now typing this out. As I said, I still can't believe this all happened. The emotion is overwhelming. I feel like my head is spinning. Honestly, it feels like a dream kind of, but this turned out far better than I hoped for. It's like a miracle that just appeared out of nowhere. I guess I'll see what happens from here. Thanks to all for your support. And this was just like an incredible relief to get through this one in a nice way, because in the first part of the story where OP was telling us about, how they built up this wall around themselves and was finally moving on with their life, had their close circle of friends, and they were absolutely fine. And then sister comes back into it, and it started looking a bit shaky on what was going to happen and what could happen in the future, and just made things all uncertain for OP, which is not what I needed in that moment in time. But then that message from the sister in the second one where, there's a sister that loves you if you need it. And that was just like, oh man, that hit me. There was tears flowing in that bit. I don't mind telling you. And what an incredibly supportive friend OP has as well. Absolutely wonderful update, I think. But what do you guys make of this situation? What would you have done if you was OP in that initial story? Would you have met up or not? I know it's very difficult because, you haven't got every single detail there and you don't know what OP's feeling like. But what are your initial thoughts? Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on to another cheeky story. And this next little story came from our own subreddit, r/Mark Narrations, from Pawsy Muck Murder Mittens, who says, a wholesome ruckus. The wholesome story at the end of your video today about the kids dabbing in London Eye reminded me of this first story. Growing up, when we visited my mum's sister in the mountains of Colorado, my parents always honked the car horn when we went through the long tunnels so we could hear it echoing. It's pretty common. I am autistic and don't like loud noise, but it always thrilled me anyway, making me feel a bit wild. What can I say? I was a strange, uptight child. One summer, my two younger siblings, my parents and I drove down through Northern California to San Francisco as part of a family vacation. We had been to SFO years before and were excited to return, so my siblings and I were in an ebullient mood. As we approached the Golden Gate Bridge from the north in the early evening rush hour, we hit a traffic jam, coming to a standstill just inside a tunnel. Being the delightful gremlins we were, we pleaded with our father to honk the horn. He resisted, agreeing with our mother that other drivers would think he was road ragey. But Dad's a lawyer and always encouraged us to make our case for what we wanted. Note, I don't recommend this style of parenting. It may encourage critical thinking, but it also breeds gremlins. I don't remember what our brilliant arguments were, but the children's case carried the day, and he ultimately gave in and let out two friendly little bursts of the horn. A moment later, another car answered, then another. Dad gave a longer, more jubilant honk. Before we knew it, everyone in the tunnel had joined in. It sounded like we're in the middle of a large, unruly orchestra, trying to tune their instrument with no clue what A sounds like. It didn't last very long, and fortunately, the traffic jam also wasn't too interminable. But for a few minutes, we were joined with our fellow commuters in an unholy ruckus. The noise was a little uncomfortable for me, but it was a little wild for an uptight kid and incredibly wholesome. And because I love these little wholesome stories, there was one more little one that I was going to cover, which says, my dad can't work anymore due to ill health. He receives a little money from the government, just enough to enable him to get by. One of the biggest passions before he had to finish work was building model railways. He has two. Both are still unfinished. He had to stop working on them because he no longer had the money to continue. When I took over looking after his finances, I started to transfer some extra money from my wages into his bank account so we could start working on it again. I told him there had been a rise in his benefits, as I know he would never accept money from me. It isn't much, but at least now he can buy himself 1 or 2 bits every month to keep himself busy and happy. And there was a lovely reply to this one as well, who said, hey, I work in the rail industry, and if he wanted some plans or other cool stuff to look over, well, I think it's cool. It's really just manuals and shit for equipment. PM me and I'll throw a package together. It's not nearly as cool as model trains, but who knows, it may be interesting. One of the things I absolutely love about some, obviously not all because some are bad, but like these particular ones, online communities where they come together and they try to, and they have these random acts of kindness like that to try and make people's lives better in a small way, but can make a massive difference to that one individual. Amazing. Thank you so much for your wholesome stories, and just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories as well. Your love, support, and time, as I always say, means the absolute world to me. At the end of the video, there'll be a couple of playlists there for you, and if you click on them, it'll scroll through all the videos for you so you don't have to keep scrolling. So if you're doing whatever you're doing, and don't forget to let me know what you're up to, it will play the videos automatically. Thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3.